to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Ed, could you call the roll, please?
Yes, Colin Henderson,
Present.
John Henney,
Present.
Edward Crowe, present. Mary Leschuk,
Present.
Brian Binney.
I'm present also. All right, we have full board. Okay, if we could move on to item number 1, which is the Keystone Trade Center, Building 1, North Point River Road, Fairless Hills, tax parcel 13-51-001.
Room for number 1.
Good evening, everybody.
Hi, Ms. McGinnis.
Mike McGinnis from Begley Carlin, back again for Building 1 with respect to the North Point site. This is a minor subdivision that we're proposing. I'm sure the Planning Commission recalls that we were already in front of the Planning Commission with respect to the land development portion of this plan that was subsequently approved by the supervisors. Going to keep this very brief, but of course, we're happy to answer any questions that you all might have. Broadly speaking, North Point had been debating different mechanisms for ownership of the properties that they control here, and it was determined due to a number of different tenants respectively occupying the site that subdividing the lots was the best avenue. That does not at all change North Point's intentions, which they have stated repeatedly with respect to their plan to own this property and the other properties at this site. But subdivision is the route that we are pursuing, both with respect to Building 1 and future buildings which are going to come in front of the Planning Commission. Really, from a procedural standpoint, I think this is a sort of dot the I, cross the T application. We do have 2 partial waivers with respect to natural resource features and natural resource protection calculations. Those were both depicted on the Building 1 land development plan. Ordinarily, at this point, I would turn it over to someone on North Point's end to kind of give a talk about what they're doing, but I candidly don't think that that's necessary here. I know Jeremy Michael is with us and is happy to answer any questions, as is Eric Clace from Gilmore and Associates, but I don't have any other information to provide at this point. It's a straightforward minor subdivision correlating to a previously approved land development plan.
So, Mr. McGinnis, maybe you could just, when I looked at this plan, I thought it was a major subdivision. So am I correct that we are disregarding everything except for page 8?
Yeah, that's essentially correct. We had concurrently submitted a major subdivision for what we're calling the lease parcels. There are a number of existing leases that will be separated onto lots. We submitted those at the same time and trying to give the Planning Commission at least an overall view of everything that was going on. We used the same set of plans but filed separate applications. So yes, we're just focusing on lot 9, Building 1. And lot 9, the numbering of the lots starts with the overall lot is number 1, the wastewater treatment plant is number 2. Then we go around with the various leased parcels. So apologize if that's was a little confusing in the application, but we reviewed that with Mr. Jones and talked about annotating the plan to clearly indicate that this is only a minor subdivision for lot number 9. Yes.
Right. And we would anticipate, I think, being back in front of the Planning Commission next month for the other information that's in your packet.
Any questions from the board?
No.
No.
Dave, is there any public comment?
No public comment.
Thank you. There's no questions. Mr. Jones, you're going to make sure it's clear when this is recorded that this is just a minor subdivision and this major subdivision is not
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. We will work with the applicant to, I guess, strip out all the ancillary information not related to the minor subdivision. And so that will be reflected on the record plan that you'll ultimately sign.
There's no other questions from the board. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to approve the minor subdivision application for NP Falls Township Industrial LLC, River Road, KTC North Point, TPM number 13-051-001, zoned MPM, Falls Township of Bucks County, Pennsylvania, JAE, project number LD 21-08, dated plan April 1st, 2021. With two partial waivers of 121.521C2 and partial waiver 191.79C3.
Is there a second?
Second.
Poll the board, please.
Colin Henderson,
Yes.
John Henney,
Yes.
Ed Crow, yes. Mary Luzchuk,
Yes.
Brian Binney.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you,
Thank
gentlemen.
you.
All right, the second item on our agenda was KA at Fairless Hills, which was withdrawn. So we'll move on to item number 3, which is Lincoln Highway Storage LLC, 957 Lincoln Highway, Marsville, PA, tax parcel 13-28-36. Construction of a self-storage facility, preliminary land development.
Applicants are in.
Good evening.
Good evening. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name's Sarah Werner. I'm with the firm of Prime and Tuvell on behalf of the applicant Lincoln Highway Storage LLC. We're here this evening seeking a recommendation for preliminary land development approval. The property, the subject of the application is 957 Old Lincoln Highway, and that's located in the highway commercial zone. The property is currently developed with a vacant and severely dilapidated automobile repair facility. Applicants proposing to demolish the existing buildings and construct a multi-building self-storage facility together with related site improvements, including but not limited to parking, lighting, and landscaping. The zoning hearing board previously granted applicant a use variance to permit the proposed self-storage facility, as well as dimensional variances related to the permitted number of principal buildings, building coverage, front yard setback, and parking setback. I have with me tonight three individuals, two of which can speak and address any questions or comments the commission may have. The first is Donald Haas of Bogia Engineering, applicant's engineer. We also have Mitch Feldman, a representative of applicant. They're both available to answer any questions, but before we get into that, I did want to advise the commission that we are in receipt of the review letters from Vanessa Nedrick of RVE with regard to the sewer and water, as well as the review letter of Mr. Jones for the overall engineering. Having reviewed both, first talking to Ms. Nedrick's letter of April 16th, we are, as you will see, we've complied with a number of the items already. With regard to comment 1, we already complied with that as
We
well.
do not-
The letters
we do
haven't
not
been
have-
updated.
Can I interrupt you, Ms. Warner? We do
Yes,
not.
go ahead.
We do not have that review letter, and we're not. We may speak to some of those items or some of the water and sewer issues, but we're not here to go through the sewer authority engineer's review letter.
Okay, easy enough. In any event, we can comply with all of it. Then I don't know how you want to handle going through Mr. Jones's letter. Our engineer has spoken with Mr. Jones actually this morning, and I believe about 95% of the comments, if not more, are will comply. There are, however, a couple waivers we are seeking. So I can either have our engineer go through that, or if you would like to take the lead, whatever's easiest for the commission.
So typically, we would proceed, if you would just go through Mr. Jones's letter. If anything that's a will comply, you can just skip it and touch base on the things which either you cannot comply with or do not wish to comply with, or whatever waivers you're requesting.
Absolutely. So I think what would be easiest, since he has the technical comments, Mr. Haas, are you with us?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, would you be able to walk the commission through the letter based on your earlier discussions with Mr. Jones?
Absolutely. Do you have a copy of Mr. Jones's letter in front of you?
We do.
Okay, first 4 pages, simple, will comply. Our first waiver discussion item is on page 5, section 191-37B, relating to 15 feet of open space between the curb line and the buildings and the curb line and the property line. We're looking to have that waived as the parking spaces are closer to the buildings. It's suitable for this use. It's a self-storage facility, so you want your parking spaces closer. Also, the drive aisles on the side of the property are 12 feet from the property line instead of 15. Those drive aisles are one way. We could narrow them up, but we have them wider for easier access with the fire apparatus around the buildings.
If there's any questions with regards to that waiver, or we can hold questions to the end and keep going.
We'll jump in if
whichever
we
you
want
prefer.
to, so we're not shy. So just, if you don't hear from us, let's assume we're okay.
All right,
Okay.
perfect.
That sounds good. Page 6, next waiver item would be section 191-39G for sidewalk along the property frontage. This use is not a neighborhood type use. You don't have people, pedestrians coming to this use for self-storage facility. Also, the location on Old Lincoln Highway is just about at the end of it where it intersects Route 1. There's no pedestrian generating uses on either side or neighborhoods that would require a sidewalk in this area, and there's no sidewalk on any of the adjoining properties.
Okay, and what's the next waiver, Mr. House?
Next waiver item, 191-44D. This relates
Still on
to
page
grading.
6.
I'm sorry?
We're still on page 6, correct?
Still on page 6, next one down. This
Okay.
relates to grading within 5 feet of the property. We're proposing grading closer to the property line. The property will have construction fencing around it in compliance with Conservation District and DEP requirements. If there's any sort of issues with achieving the grades, we will take responsibility for obtaining a construction easement, but we do not anticipate that need with current construction methods. We feel that we can get closer to the property line to allow construction of the retaining walls as we have them shown and to allow the grading.
How close are the retaining walls to the property line?
The retaining walls are 5 feet from the property line.
So how are you going to have a machine dig it without trespassing on the neighbors?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, please?
How are you going to be able to get a machine in that space to excavate for the wall without encroaching into the neighbor's property?
The machine will be on the applicant's property side of that. The retaining wall, there's 2 retaining walls on either side of the property. The retaining wall on the east side of the property, they'll construct that and fill behind it. We don't really have any concerns about that because that location we will have filled. The west side is in cut. We've done retaining walls almost up to and on the property line. We've done them with PennDOT and in other locations. It comes down to means and methods of the contractor who installed. There's pilot ride, their utilization you can feet we felt was sufficient to construct the retaining walls as we have them shown.
Yeah, we only got half of that because you were jumping in and out.
Okay, the eastern retaining wall is a fill condition. They're going to build the wall and fill the dirt behind that on the applicant's side. The western retaining wall, we feel 5 feet is sufficient to construct the retaining wall at that location. There's different means and methods contractors can use to stabilize the soil as they're constructing the wall. We'll have a full retaining wall design provided for Mr. Jones's satisfaction. He's made that a condition in his comments, and it's kind of comes down to when they start building it. One of the conditions that he has requested is that during construction of the retaining walls, a geotechnical engineer is present to ensure that. If we encounter conditions where that cannot be obtained, then it'll be on the applicant's priorities to obtain a construction easement if it's necessary, or to provide an alternate design.
There's no other questions with regards to that waiver. Mr. Haas, would you like to continue on?
Page 7. The 3 comments at the bottom regarding the different natural resources on the project site. There's the wetlands margins, protected woodlands in general, and steep slopes that the project will be impacting. We anticipate this will go over the percentages allowed per the ordinance. We're requesting a waiver of this, primarily for construction of the detention basin at the rear of the property. The topography of the property requires the basin be at the low point and outlet as close as we can to the wetlands. Now, we've created a basin called a managed release concept. It's in line with DEP guidelines. It'll have a rain garden filter media in the bottom of the detention basin. From what we designed here and what the existing conditions on the site, we feel the end result will be actually something cleaner and nicer that will be discharging the stormwater to the wetlands. It will also be mimicking a slow feed of the wetlands as if there was the water table feed in the wetlands based on the DEP designed managed release concept basin. It's a mouthful to get out. If you have any questions about that, I can go into more details. The steep slopes, we anticipate impacting most of the slopes there. It's a small area. It's really amounts to, I think, about less than 1,000 square feet. These are also slopes that were created on the past development of the site. There's unconsolidated fill behind them. They're not a natural feature that typically requires protection. The woodlands, we are going to be impacting the special protection woodlands also overlap entirely within the wetlands margin. Both the wetlands margin and the special protection woodlands allow for 20% disturbance. We anticipate going above that primarily for the construction of the basin. Some of that area is currently gravel lane and existing building that we will be removing from that in order to create the detention basin.
So you're proposing to impact 60.6 acres of the wetlands margin, is that correct?
I couldn't hear anything you said.
I said you're proposing to impact 0.6 acres of the wetlands margin, is that correct?
That is correct.
If there's no other questions with regard to that waiver, Mr. Haas, you can continue.
Can you repeat the question again? Maybe the feed's a problem?
I'm sorry, if someone's speaking, I'm having trouble hearing.
That was our IT guy. I guess he did not hear if there were a question. Is that correct, Dave?
Heard the question. Can you relay it one more time?
I'm not sure which question we're asking for.
0.6 acres, I guess.
Who's asking the question? Is that you, Dave?
You had a question. If we're okay, then go ahead, proceed.
Okay, please proceed.
Okay, that is the end of my waiver request.
Okay, and Mr. Haas, since that's the end of the waiver request, is it your testimony that we can comply with all other comments within Mr. Jones's letter?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. That is all we have for the commission, unless there's any further questions.
Any questions from the board?
So it looks like there's one fire hydrant for this property?
There are 2 fire hydrants for the property, one at the rear of the facility and one in an island at the front of the facility.
With this water line, it does dead end. Is there any proposals to go through and I'll default to the chairman, but I believe there's a second line up the street a little bit more with more pressure. Because if we open up one of those hydrants from a fire perspective, I think we're going to dead end that line and we'll lose all water pressure.
Our last plans that we submitted to the Township Authority is to provide a loop system per the fire marshal's request. It connects one side into Juliet for the cul-de-sac in the rear, and the other end of that loop connects to the adjoining street that intersects it.
Okay.
I don't really consider that a loop. I said, I don't really consider that a loop. You're sucking from a dead-end water main that just serves that neighborhood back there, and if something happens down there, there's no redundant backup. A better loop would be to extend the water line to Old Lincoln Highway and connect to the water line that's in front of TruckSmart.
We feel that's a pretty excessive requirement considering the PennDOT permitting and costs for providing the PennDOT paving replacement and construction within Old Lincoln Highway for the extent of the water main for a single applicant.
Well, one thing that you don't know is that this area of town has wells and septic systems, and there would probably be other people participating in the connection. And this is probably the only opportunity to make things better for the health and safety and welfare of the people who live up there.
Is this a project that Falls Township is looking to undertake?
No. We're asking you to provide the safety of the neighborhood and for your property, that we really don't feel that that's we don't feel that that's a solid loop for the water line to provide adequate fire protection.
We have had the fire hydrant at the end of Juliet was pressure tested. We provided those rates to the authority. They were on, we had a conference call with Vanessa Nedrick and Mr. Jones regarding the fire marshal's requirements for the site and the loop that was requested, and provided those the pressure tests to Ms. Nedrick. We are still working through the requirements for sprinklers on the interior of the system, or in the interior of the buildings. We'll provide that design as the building design moves forward. We didn't anticipate anything greater than the loop that the fire marshal has requested. Is there a specific piece of the line in Juliet or the system in Juliet that is degraded, this is an issue?
There's one line that goes into that neighborhood off of West Trenton Avenue. That neighborhood doesn't have a loop on it, so if something were to happen to that line or something in that neighborhood, you would lose all water pressure, and in the event of a fire, there would be no redundancy.
Okay.
I think at this juncture, Mr. Haas, would I be correct in saying you're willing to discuss this with the fire marshal to see if there's anything else that can be done, but we're not really looking to go outside of what the requirements have been as expressed to us thus far?
Correct. We've looked to comply with everything the fire marshal has requested so far for the project site.
Okay. Another thing I would like to see is, I would prefer to see a gravity sewer line extend up through your property, up to Route 1, so that in the future, it would be available for other people to connect into. And again, if they were to connect into it, they would have to pay a participation fee. I know there are properties up there that have issues with septic systems, and quite frankly, this was the only piece of property available to get a sewer through.
Does the Township Authority have a system set up for participatory fees and combining different applicants in regards to that?
The Municipal Authorities Act accounts for that.
And you're not looking for the applicant to extend it past the property line?
Nope. I just would like a manhole up at Lincoln Highway for somebody future to extend it. And it would eliminate your grinder pump and future maintenance and electricity, and gravity doesn't break.
Are you anticipating gravity all the way to Juliet?
Hopefully.
Okay, we've looked at the grades on that. Juliet, where it is and where our project site is, in order to get around the existing residents there, it is too deep to go gravity the entire way. That is why we provided the grinder pump and the pump system. We would have gone gravity if we could have. It is obviously less expensive than putting a pump housing and those related costs.
I'm not sure I understand your comment. You said it's too deep?
In order to maintain the slopes required, the end of the line as it gets to Juliet is too deep. For the system that's in Juliet, the pump house is there.
All right. I'd like to verify that, but, okay.
If we could have gone through the residence that's there, that would have shortened the length, but that wasn't a feasible option.
And it's, okay, series of drop manholes wouldn't make it work?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I said a series of drop manholes wouldn't make it work?
It's not the depth as it goes across our project site, but as it goes out the rear of our project site, there's the back of our curb and along the basin, that area flattens out. As the slope of the pipe just gets deeper and deeper from that point till we get it wrapped around to Juliet is where that piece of it gets too deep.
Okay.
The interior part of the project site is not at issue. There's enough drop across that. It's the portion in the rear. Rock Run goes along the back there. It just gets flat.
Other questions from the board? Dave, we have public comment?
We have no public comment.
Mr. Jones, you have anything?
I would just add that I believe that 19178C2 is a partial waiver that's typically granted based on the applicant providing enough surrounding topographic information to our satisfaction. In light of the recent part of the conversation, maybe there'll be some additional topo requested to prove out the gravity system. But I think that should be in the waiver list if I'm not mistaken.
Thank you. I think you're correct.
Yes, you are. Thank you.
And as far as the Remington-Vernick review letter dated March 17th for the traffic, That letter will comply of waiver requests for the Remington Verdict Traffic Engineers Review Letter? No, Ms. Warner? Anybody hear me?
We're checking, Brian. Hold on. I don't know why they can't hear you. 1 second.
Can you hear me?
We lost everybody.
Brian, go ahead and try your audio again.
Ms. Warner, can you hear me?
Yes, now I can.
Okay. I should have mentioned this earlier. This is the first time we're trying this system, so who knows what's going to happen.
Not a problem.
So as far as the Remington Vernick Traffic Engineers Review, the letter we have is dated March 17th. Is there any waivers or requests pertaining to that letter?
No, there are not. I believe that we've satisfied everything from the traffic engineer's standpoint.
Very good. Mr. Jones, in the Bucks County Planning Commission review, there was a comment that says that the applicant is not providing a minimum depth of 24 inches between the bottom of the basin and a limiting zone. Has that been corrected?
Yeah, we worked with the applicant's engineer, and it's going to be lined to prevent any interaction. And with the managed release concept, we can line the basin to separate it effectively. I believe that's correct, Donald.
Yes.
Okay. Very good, thank you. If there's no other comments, I'll entertain a motion. But me personally, I would like to see whether we can extend the water and sewer and correct the issues that are over in that neighborhood, or help the issues over in that neighborhood, not correct them. So I'll entertain a motion at this time.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to recommend approval for preliminary and final land development application, Lincoln Storage LLC, 957 Old Lincoln Highway, Business Route 1, TMP number 13-028-075-001, Zone HC, based on the fire marshal's letter dated April 21st, 2021, and the Remington Vernick's letter dated March 17th, 2021, and the Jones Engineering letter dated April 15th, 2021. With waivers of 191-37B, 191-39G, 191-44D, 191-52.1B3, 191-52.1B4, 191-52.1B8.
Ms. Leschuk,
Everything else will comply.
could I ask, was your motion for a preliminary and a final? Or was it for preliminary?
She said both.
I did say preliminary and final, but I am very hesitant about making it preliminary and final. So we will say, actually, I will correct myself and say preliminary land development application. It would be nice to, as you have stated, actually at least look into and possibly fixing that type of problem that could also help, our community as well. Maybe looking into something like that. But once again, that would be, my recommendation would be for the preliminary
Okay.
land development.
Thank you. Thank you for a clarification. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Poll the board, please.
Colin Henderson,
Yes. Yes.
Colin Henderson,
Yes.
John Henney,
No.
Edward Crowe, yes. Mary Lou's Chuck,
Yes.
Ryan Benny.
No. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening, everyone. Okay, the last item on our agenda is approval of minutes for March 23rd. Is there any comments, motions, or additions, corrections, deletions? If there's none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve as printed.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Dave,